Welcome to FBB Forum. I'm very pleased to welcome the stunning IFBB women's bodybuilding competitor, Andrea Wellington, to the podcast. Andrea made her pro debut in both the Masters and Open categories of women's bodybuilding last weekend at the Tampa Pro. And stay tuned to find out more about Andrea, including why she has the unique IG handle Science and Muscles. Welcome, Andrea. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I wanted to get started with just asking you a few questions about how you got started in bodybuilding. And I was wondering, did you have an athletic or sports background before you started?
So basically, as a kid, my favorite things to do were to sprint. And like in elementary school, I would love to be the motor on the merry-go-round for people. So I would just sit there on the side of it, and kids would get on it, and I'd push with one leg as fast as I could go, and the kids would be flying off left and right, and it was fun. But I love that feeling of like power surging through my legs.
Yeah.
And when I was in elementary school, we would have field day. And that was like my favorite day because I could outrun all the boys and girls in sprint.
Really? Wow. Very cool.
That was fun. So then in middle school, I did compete in track and field. I just did the track part. I wish somebody had taken the time to show me how to do shot put. I probably would have been a pretty good thrower, but just I had a lot of natural strength. Yeah, so middle school was fun with sprinting. I was undefeated in the 100-meter dash. But then since I was so young, I was 12 years old when my brother got me started in bodybuilding. So I didn't have a whole lot of time for other sports. I realized I really love bodybuilding. I didn't want to take away time from that in order to make time for another sport. I did a little bit of softball, but anything where it requires you to have eye-hand coordination where you're aiming, I'm usually 90 degrees off.
Okay.
So yeah, softball was never a real good thing for me.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so you started when you were 12, and you said you're 55 now?
Yep.
Wow, that's so cool. That's a lot of longevity in the sport.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's a long time of lifting, but I mean, that's for females. It takes a long time to develop some good solid muscle.
That's terrific. Yeah, you said your brother is an IFBB Pro?
Yep, IFBB Pro, Rusty Jeffers.
And
yep,
he's in the Masters Olympiad?
Yeah, in the end of the month.
Oh, great. Which division is he in?
He'll be on the Open men's bodybuilding.
Wow, that's terrific. Yeah, that's great. Wow, I bet will you get a chance to go see him, do you think, compete?
Well, I'm not in person. We can watch it online though, so that's the plan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's in Romania, right? So
yeah, that's true. I know that's a long flight.
Yeah. Had enough trouble just getting to Tampa and back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, you mentioned earlier. What happened, or do you mind saying what happened to you in Tampa, trying to get to Tampa?
Oh, as far as getting there? Yeah. So I recommend for everybody, if you plan to take baggies of protein powder or pre-workout, don't do it, because there are some airports where their security will have to stop you and test it. And many times pre-workout and protein powder comes up as positive because their system is not set up to test things appropriately. So then they end up confiscating it. And so that's what happened to me. My 2 bags of protein powder got confiscated, and they had to take extra time to copy my photo ID and to pat me down and to test my shoes for any, I don't know what they're looking for, explosives or something. Anyway, so that made me miss my flight. So we ended up arriving in Tampa like 12 hours later than we were supposed to originally.
Oh, wow.
And that was a very stressful day for me, which didn't help my condition on the day of the show.
Sure, I understand. That's tough. Did they think it was weird because there were baggies of white powder kind of thing? They were.
Yeah, I think but it wasn't even white. It was chocolate flavored protein powder. So it was brown. And it's kind of obvious, like I looked a bit muscular, right? So, and I was wearing a tank top, so it was easy for them to see that I had muscles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just, it's crazy. We've had an issue before with my husband and his pre-workout at another airport in the Phoenix area.
Really?
And they wouldn't let the pre-workout go through. It got flagged as positive. So it's like, okay, well, so much for that. So if you need to bring pre-workout or protein powder with you, just buy individual packets of it, that if they're in their original packaging, it's okay. But other than that, it's kind of you never know if they're going to pick on you or not. And if you're running late for a flight, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I know you mentioned you had scheduled a direct flight and
Yeah,
but ended up kind of backfiring on you.
yeah,
So
it did. Yeah.
yeah. Oh no, that's good advice though. Thank you for that.
Right. Yeah, good to know. I wish somebody told me that before. But yeah.
That's like traveling with dark sheets kind of thing, like the tips of the trade kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I was curious, when did how did you get involved in your first bodybuilding contest and who convinced you to do your first contest?
I think it was my brother Rusty who encouraged me to do it. Um, yeah, so that was in 1981. I was 14 years old. It was the Ms. Arizona bodybuilding contest, and I took fourth place. I was last place. But of course, I was by far the youngest, and I didn't really understand in my head the importance of dieting.
Okay, sure,
So that was my falling down point.
sure.
So later the following year, when I was 15, I competed in Ms. High School Arizona. I took second place in that. Um, and then in 1988, I competed in the Ms. Collegiate Arizona, and I won that one.
Mhm.
That same year, I competed in the Copper Classic in Arizona, took third place in that. And then the following year in 1989, while I was training for the Collegiate Arizona again, my appendix burst. But it took the
Oh,
doctors 2 weeks to figure out what was wrong, because I guess
wow.
most people with their appendix bursts are like, oh my God, I'm dying, and can't do anything. And for me, it's like, well, pain is a part of my life every freaking day. I just get up and go, right?
Uh-huh.
But I knew something was horribly wrong when you do ab work every freaking day, getting ready for a show, and all of a sudden I can't sit up in bed.
Oh no. Oh, that's
Anyway, yeah, it
terrible.
turns out my appendix had burst, and so they had to open me up and dig out all the mess.
Oh
Yeah,
wow, that's terrible. Wow. How
yeah.
old
So
were you
then,
then?
yeah, yeah, I'm glad I survived. I was just thinking to myself that had that happened 100 years ago, I would have been dead.
Yeah, that's true. How
Yeah,
old
so
were you when
the
that
way of
happened?
modern
When
antibiotics and medical technology.
that's true. With the when your appendix burst, like how old were you at that time?
I was something like 22, I think.
Wow, that's so young. Wow.
Yeah.
Did that sideline you for a while from bodybuilding?
Well, so I didn't compete again until 1992.
Mm.
But in the meantime, in 1990, I met my husband. In 1991, we got married. And the end of 1991, we had our first child.
Wow,
So
okay.
after having my daughter, I decided I'm going to get my body back. And so 13 months later, I won the Ms. Arizona. So that was in November of 1992.
Wow.
Um, I was happy to get back in shape, but that was a lot of work. Yeah, it was rough. So in doing that, I also realized that it wasn't going to work for me to continue to be, a student, a mom, a wife, and a bodybuilder. So
Hmm.
like, okay, I got to pick a couple of those. I can't do them all. And so I
Yeah.
thought I can come back to competitive bodybuilding later on in my life. Right now, I have one chance to do the best I can to raise my kid,
Hmm.
and later on in '95, we had another child, a son.
Okay.
But yeah, so I decided that I'm just going to try and keep my body in shape the best I can, do is squeeze in a workout here and there when I can, but
Hmm.
not compete. There's also that conflict that comes along when, if you're going to do the best you can in a show, that has to be your number one priority. But if you have kids, that has to be your number one priority, right? And so, like, okay, your kid's sick, you can't get to the gym that day. It just doesn't work. The frustration is just not worth it for me. I mean, I admire women who can do that, and it's nice now that so many gyms have daycare centers where
Hmm.
it's easy to drop off your kid while you go train, so that you and your spouse or whoever can work out. I mean, that would have saved us a lot of heartache if we had that ability. And I know there are people who have been able to bring their kid into the gym with them. Like my brother Rusty was always able to do that. They could just, bring her in the little stroller or whatever and have her next to the bench while they're training.
Hmm.
None of the gyms we ever went to were like that.
I understand. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
so cool though that you're able to start the family and then
Yeah.
did you pick up the competing later when they were like
Right. Yeah. So I went back in 2020. So it was a gap from 1992 until 2020.
wow, really?
So in
Wow.
2020, I competed in the Arizona Women's Extravaganza in Phoenix, and I took first place in that.
Uh-huh.
And then later on that same year, I competed in the NPC USA, just the open, because that was like during COVID times
Yeah.
and they didn't have a masters. And so I was like, what the heck, I'll just do the open. So I took second place in the open there. And then I
Wow.
competed again in 2021, the same show, the NPC mat. Well, this one was the masters version of the USA because they had it that time.
Yeah.
And I took second place in that. And then in 22, I finally took first place in the USA's.
That's
So
awesome.
that was very rewarding after having kind of failed 2 times, right?
Yeah. So you got your pro card then. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. I bet that was really exciting for you, especially having such a long career too in the sport.
Yeah, and being able to come back to it, yeah, after being away. It's interesting too that after having the perspective of, taking time for my family, it's like now I have so much time for myself. And so I don't have to feel guilty for going out for a morning bike ride or to spend 2 hours in the gym. It's like I can
Mhm.
just go and do that because it's for me and it makes me happy.
That's great. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think for up and coming competitors to hear that too, I think that's important. Yeah, I think it makes sense. Now, I was curious when you first went up on stage in a bikini and you were only 14, I guess, was it kind of nerve-wracking or were you?
Yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking. But one thing that helped is that at that time I had been an aerobics instructor.
Uh-huh.
So I was a little bit used to being kind of in front of a group in something, some athletic wear, right? So I don't think it was as bad as it would have been had I not had that experience.
Yeah,
But
I
still, it's like,
understand.
every time I go on stage, I am nervous, especially ahead of time. Usually once I get started, especially when I'm doing my posing routine to the music that I chose,
Uh-huh.
um, it's um I feel good.
Sure.
Especially like there was in 2021, I have a brother who's a musician, and I used one of his songs to pose to
Oh
for
yeah.
that. And it was just kind of comforting. It's like, okay, it's me and Scott up here. So
Yeah. That's terrific. That's so cool. That'd be a really cool experience, I bet.
yeah.
Yeah. That's it's interesting you mentioned that because I always thought about with during the prejudging and you're doing your preliminary posing, you don't get to choose that music, so you don't know what they're going to play at that time. But when you get
Usually, but this time actually at the Tampa Pro for the Masters, they had us, instead of doing a little short routine to whatever music, they said you're going to do your own routine to the music you chose. So it's like in
oh,
prejudging was the only time that I did my own posing routine for
really?
the pro, which is unusual because the other shows I've done were the other way around.
Yeah, that's actually kind of cool. That's kind of nice that to
Right. If the judges actually look at you, that was the unfortunate thing. I was a little bit frustrated during the posing routine, looking at the judges, not looking at me. I'm like, what are you looking at? Isn't
yeah.
that what you're there for? But
Hmm.
anyway, I guess they had something more important.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. That's not good though. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that would be kind of nerve-wracking, I would think, especially, you know, being up there on stage and hoping that they're paying attention to you and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, uh, as we talked about, you made your pro debut in Tampa this past weekend, and I was curious, did you enjoy the show? How was your pro debut experience?
It was a little bit frustrating because my peaking didn't quite go as well as it normally does. I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure what went wrong, but so I wasn't feeling in my best condition. Like my shoulders had shrunk up a little bit, my thighs had shrunk up a little bit.
Mhm.
So I hadn't quite filled out the way I should have. So
Sure.
I felt a little awkward in that regard. And then just being in an environment where you realize, oh my God, everyone else here is like bigger than me or as big as I am, and they're leaner than I am. And so that's a little bit uncomfortable, right? So these are
Sure.
just things I be thinking about when I'm training to make sure, okay, that's not going to happen again, right?
Yeah, sure. Uh-huh.
Um, and I mean, it was nice being backstage with the women. They were all friendly, and it was nice, in the open when I, got to chat with Michaela Aycock and Nikki Chartrand, and it's just they're friendly people. Even Janine Lankowski was in one of the back rooms there and offered me some nice advice that was really helpful. So there's a
Right.
lot of people there that were really helpful and nice. But what I really liked about Tampa itself was just the really yummy food places.
Oh
My
yeah.
husband found this place called Foodies that he ate at every single day he was there after he found it. So he had like breakfast and lunch and dinner there on various occasions. And I just got to sit there and drink coffee or water while he ate. But then after the show, that's where we went because I noticed they had baklava in their little case. And I was like, I'm going to have that baklava.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's what I
Baklava's
had
the
for my
best.
reward meal. Yeah, it's baklava and some other yummy food. So that was nice. And then in Tampa, there's also a place, an ice cream truck called the Creamy Wheel, and it is amazing. So if anybody's in Tampa, go to the creamy wheel. It's really good, delicious, fresh. There's no preservatives. They just kind of make it right in front of you there on this frozen plate. And it's really amazing.
That sounds good. I don't know either of those places. I live in Tampa, so I'm gonna have to look them up. So yeah.
So the creamy wheel.
Oh, and baklava is the best. That's so tasty.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah. So I'm half Lebanese, so I love that kind of food.
Oh, very cool. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love Mediterranean food. Is so good. Yeah. We have a few good Mediterranean restaurants in Tampa too. Um, Now I was curious, have you always competed in women's bodybuilding, or have you ever competed in
Right, that's right. Only women's bodybuilding, because when I started, that's all there was, and
Yeah.
that's kind of who I identify with as
Mhm.
that's who I am. So I never tried any other category.
And back in the day, yeah, there didn't really have any other categories. It was
No, there
just
were no
women's
other
bodybuilding.
categories then. I don't know when it was they started the other categories, but that was much more recently, and I'd never had any interest in those.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, that's great. No, you look great in the bodybuilding lineup too, for sure. I was curious, did you get any direct feedback from the judges on where to improve your physique at Tampa?
I didn't ask at Tampa because they didn't look at me.
Oh, well,
But,
yeah. Oh, no.
yeah, but in one of the NPC shows that I had competed at, they gave you an opportunity to send an email message with your pictures to someone and get feedback. And at that time, they said I needed to get my back a little thicker and a little wider,
Mhm.
and then bring up my shoulders a little, and be tighter in the posterior. And so that's kind of what I had been addressing.
Okay, very cool. And did you say, I think you had mentioned you're not planning to compete again this year, right? You're going to wait till next
Right.
year?
Yeah, next year, that's my plan. Yeah, I want to make a few changes and make sure that I've got everything where it needs to be, so I won't feel small and not lean enough when it's contest day.
Sure. Where do you hope to compete, or can you say?
I'm not sure what there's not that many women's bodybuilding shows, and especially masters women's bodybuilding shows.
Yeah.
So I haven't really decided yet which one I want to do. I mean, I'm hoping, I was really wishing there'd be one in Phoenix because that's so easy to access, or even in California, it's easy to drive there. But yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, maybe if some of the other shows decide that because of the huge turnout for women's bodybuilding at the Tampa Pro, maybe some of the other shows that normally don't have women's bodybuilding, maybe they'll open it up to women's bodybuilding.
I hope so. I
Yeah.
know it's been a lot of shows that have cut back on the division, unfortunately, and that's
Yeah.
kind of, as a fan, it's kind of depressing. I'd like
Right.
to see more.
Yeah.
Do you think, I was curious, will you get to attend Rising Phoenix as a spectator, do you think?
Yeah, I'll be there for sure because Melissa Teich's competing there, and I'm definitely going to go cheer her on. And then it's nice to see Michaela Aycock and Andrea Shaw and all those ladies competing.
Yeah,
They're impressive.
it'll be a really good show, I bet. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited for Melissa. She's looking really good.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, she is.
She's crazy
Um,
too. It's insane.
yeah, that's true. Oh yeah, I really think she's going to do great in Arizona. And I was curious, is she your coach, or just?
No, actually, her husband, Rafe Teich, is my coach.
Oh, he's your coach. Okay.
Started coaching me in 2019 for powerlifting because I was just doing powerlifting at that time.
Okay.
And so I ended up in 2020 setting a world record in the bench press.
Wow.
And then I set state records in deadlift and squat. So, and then in the process of setting the world record in bench press, I mean, I actually had a torn infraspinatus, a muscle in my back, my shoulder.
Uh-huh.
It was torn at the time that I was actually doing that press.
Oh,
But
no.
and so
Wow.
it was quite painful, but I was like, look, I'm here to do this. I'm going to do it. I don't care how much it hurts. I'm just going to go. So
Oh, wow.
I did it. I was happy for that. But I realized that I need to go back to lighter weight training. So I knew I had to go back to bodybuilder style training. And then I had Rafe prep me for my 2020 women's extravaganza show. And then he's been prepping me for every show since. And I think he's done a really good job as far as looking at my physique and seeing what needs to change. And I'm actually quite impressed with the exercises that he picked for me to do to improve my back, because my back has improved a lot this last year. And it's one of those things that, I've been lifting so long, I know what back exercises are. I know how to balance it out and all that kind of thing. But he mixes in some powerlifting moves with it as well, which is not something me growing up as a bodybuilder would have necessarily done, but that's actually what I needed to add the thickness and add the width.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's done really well with that, and being able to take the time to look at my progress pictures and see where we need to go, what we need to do. And even if I do 4 days of no carbs or whatever, it's like, look, this is just what we need to do. It's and he knows me well enough to know I don't take it personally. It's like, look, we have a goal. I'm just going to follow the plan. Just let me know what I need to do.
That's great. Yeah, I've seen Melissa does some serious powerlifting.
Yeah.
And she'll post on Instagram, and yeah, her lifts are just kind of crazy because she'll have the bands on them and the chains and the it's all medieval looking.
Yeah, she's amazingly strong.
Do you ever do powerlifting with her too?
Not directly with her. I think I've actually competed at the same event that she's competed at, just in different classes, obviously, because they do it by weight and by age, and so we have very different weights and very different ages. So yeah, they're competing against each other, really.
That's cool. Yeah, she's amazing. I'm glad that she had bumped up the women's bodybuilding too. So
yeah, it was only a matter of time.
Oh yeah, I think so. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was curious, how long did you say, how long have you been coaching with, or had Rafe as your coach?
Since 2019, he's been coaching me, but for bodybuilding since 2020.
Okay, great. Yeah, Rafe and Melissa seem like kind of a bodybuilding power couple for sure. They're great.
Yeah.
And Beast Powerhouse seems like a really good gym too. So
yeah, it is. They have so many, like, both sites on the west side of town, east side of town. It's really nice equipment and good environment, nice hardworking people. Yeah.
Very cool. Now I was curious, do you have a posing coach too?
Well, Rafe has helped me with my posing, just kind of like the mandatories, and my brother Rusty also helps. Especially, he was a huge help in Anaheim. That he came with us to Anaheim when I did that competition. And he offered to come into my hotel room and just kind of run me through some poses and stuff. And so he gave me this little hint about, well, when you do your ab shot, what if you kind of like wiggle back and forth a little bit, because that really accentuates your obliques and everything, and it really kind of magnifies the effect.
Yeah.
And so just by doing that, I think it really helped. It's kind of better than just a static pose in some ways. So in this little details that Rusty was able to say, here, do this little tiny thing different, and then, oh wow, that really makes my legs pop, things like that. So Rusty's a huge help. Now, as far as putting the posing routine together, the last 3 routines I've done, I've been completely like my own. Like, I put it together and then I go to Rusty and say, hey, what do you think? And that's how it is. So I'm kind of, as far as putting the posing routine together, it's just been me and some advice from Rusty.
That's great. That's really good to have Rusty there to help you too, help with advice.
Yeah, he's got an eye for that kind of thing.
Yeah. How long has Rusty been a pro?
He turned pro, I think, when he was let's see. I'm not really sure. I think when he was 40, he turned pro, maybe. I actually don't know for sure. I'd have to ask him.
Oh, no, that's fine.
For a long time. And I know his first few pro shows, he was really discouraged because, even though he looks amazing, standing by himself, it's like, to make yourself stand out as a male when there's like 30 other males there that look just as good as you or close to it. It's hard to get the judge's eyes on you.
Yeah, I understand.
So
and men's bodybuilding is so competitive. That's a tough category. Yeah.
Right. And then that's why, like, when you're masters, there are fewer competitors. So it does make it a little bit better or easier to place higher, right? Because you just have fewer competitors. So there's, fewer distractions for the coach's eyes, for the judge's eyes.
Sure. I understand. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I was curious if you could give advice to up and coming competitors who are looking for a good coach.
Well, I think the best thing to do is, if you see somebody at your gym who has made the type of improvements you intend to make, and heading the direction that you want to go, maybe ask them, who's your coach? And then also, once you are, you find a coach and you're, working with them, it's really dependent on how much you communicate with them as to how much they can help you. If you're not honest, if you're having cheat meals every other day and you're not honest about what's happening, they really can't help you as much as if you were totally honest about what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that. Do you think it helps having a coach like Rafe who's local to you too versus?
I think it is helpful because you actually have the time to be in person, and then, certain things, that they just need to show you. For example, when I first started training for the Tampa Pro, I was at a situation where I could not even do a squat without severe knee pain.
Mhm.
And Rafe had the idea, well, let's try, wrapping your kneecaps into the right position, because I'd had MRIs done and x-rays, and it basically showed that my patella does not track in the femoral groove that it's supposed to.
Hmm.
So by basically wrapping the patella in the proper place and basically holding it there with those straps, it's made it so that I can do deep squats now.
Wow.
So that's made a huge difference. But had he not been there to kind of see what's happening and to talk to me about what's going on and then to show me, I wouldn't have had that benefit.
Hmm. That's really interesting. Wow, that's great that he was able to help you like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. That's definitely a mark of a good coach, I would say. Now, I, as I alluded to earlier, your IG handle is Science and Muscles, and
Yeah.
Melissa Teich had told me that you would work as a scientist. I was
Yeah.
curious if you could talk about where you
Yeah.
work and your background in that.
Yeah, so I'm a research scientist at the University of Arizona in the College of Medicine.
Mm.
I work in a lab where we have a mouse model of diabetes. And we just, completed a manuscript that's basically showing that the dopamine signaling in mice that have had diabetes for 6 weeks is actually changed. It's minimized compared to controls.
Oh,
So that'll be getting published soon, and it has some of my data in there. And what I love about my job now is, I get to interact with students and kind of mentor them, which is nice. I feel like I'm doing something good for the future. But also, the majority of my work is actually doing immunostaining.
mm.
And it makes some gorgeous pictures.
Really?
um, yeah, so they've actually won bio art image awards on several occasions, and one of my images was chosen as the poster for the undergraduate biology research project conference.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's been kind of nice.
That's so cool. You said immunostating?
Immunostaining, yeah, basically what that means is you use an antibody that's raised against a particular protein, um, and then you have a secondary antibody that is linked to a fluorophore that lights up, and that sticks to the primary antibody. And then you can look at that under a special microscope, and then you can see. If you can you let me share my screen for a minute? I could show you a picture.
Oh, yeah, I think that would be okay. Yeah. If you could pull it up, that'd be great. That's so cool though. That's really interesting. How long have you worked at the university now?
I have been staff there for 33 years.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So I
So,
started as a student worker, and as a student there, I got my bachelor's degree there in 1993. But in the meantime, I've been working in molecular biology labs. So can you see the picture that's on my screen?
no, it's not showing.
It isn't? Okay.
I think what we'll have, maybe we could share it on the IG later though too.
Yeah, why don't we try and do that? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to show the motorcycle pictures of you too that
Yeah.
we mentioned.
Okay. Cool.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
No worries.
No, yeah, we'll definitely show it. That's so cool that you won the bio art prize like
Yeah.
that. That's so neat.
Yeah, it's neat. And I have a lot. I mean, I don't know if you can see very well the picture behind me here.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's another one over there.
Yeah, I see. Oh,
Yeah, it's
that's
like
so cool.
beautiful artwork. And it's one thing, the mouse retina is gorgeous, when you do immunostainings on it. But also, previously I worked in a lab where we studied mitochondrial motion in fruit fly larvae. And so
Wow.
that was really fun, basically making videos of mitochondria moving along the motor neurons in those live larvae. Basically, you cut them open and you put them under the microscope, and they're tagged with a fluorophore so you can see the mitochondria moving. And we made movies of those and tracked all the motion and published a bunch of papers on it. So that was really fun, and made some gorgeous pictures there too. With the Drosophila neuromuscular junction is really something pretty to see when you have it stained nicely.
That's so cool. Wow. I think you might have the coolest job of anybody I've had on the podcast.
Oh
That's
yeah.
really
Cool.
fascinating. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's great and
Yeah,
it sounds
it
like
appeals to the inner artist as well.
yes, exactly. Yeah, getting art out of that is amazing. Yeah. No, that's kind of like have you heard the acronym STEAM?
Yeah.
And I like the inclusion of the A in there for the
Yeah.
art, which is neat. Yeah, and finding that intersection of science and art, that's really neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
The now I was curious, are your parents still alive?
My mom is. My dad died of pancreatic cancer in 2010. That was sad.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Does your mom think about your bodybuilding career?
She's really supportive, actually. So both my parents have been supportive all along of,
Right.
me and my brothers doing bodybuilding. Um, I think at first they might have been a little bit skeptical about, girls with muscles, because that was back in, the early 80s and it wasn't a common thing. But yeah, now my mom totally cheers me on and everything. So yeah, super supportive, really sweet.
That's terrific. That's so cool. And you said you have two kids?
Yeah. Our son is 28 years old and he lives in Nebraska, and our daughter is 31 years old. She lives in Phoenix.
And are they supportive of your career?
Yeah, it's nice. Sometimes my son actually gets to come and see my contests and cheer me on there. And if not, he's always, it's like, how's it going, mom? So yeah, we lift together whenever we can too. So
That's
um,
great. Yeah, that's so cool. That's great that they're supportive like that. Have either one of them competed too? Like get a little
no,
legacy
well, our
going?
son has competed in shot put and discus and hammer and weight throw, and he's actually a 3-time national shot put champion.
Really?
He's a large person. He's like 6'3", and right now he's, I think, about 310 pounds.
Oh
So
my gosh.
he's
Wow.
big, he's strong.
Yeah, it's got
Yeah,
to be super strong for that. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow. I've seen the shot put competitors.
yeah.
They're really
They're
big.
intense. Yeah,
Even the women are I've got
right.
some
Very
yeah,
solid people.
yeah, really big. That's true.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I was curious, um, it's probably easier now your kids have moved on and living on their own, but you kind of find it hard to juggle the demands of work and home life with bodybuilding career?
Yeah, it's still a little hard because, my work, there are times when, like, what I say, science waits for no one, right? There are times when I have to work the whole weekend, right? Just because
Mm,
of the way that the timing is. And especially when we collaborate with other labs, there have been times when, we were doing a high fat diet study with another, in collaboration with another lab. And so here I am, I get 36 retinas that I have to dissect out. There's nobody else in the lab who can do it for me. So I
mm,
was there till midnight getting them set up that day. I started, like 8 o'clock in the morning to get everything ready. And then you go over and you collect all the retinas, and that takes half the day. And then you have to do all the processing afterwards.
mm.
So yeah, there are some times that it's you have really long hours. And so it does make it a little bit hard to juggle those hours with, keeping your training consistent and your diet on point. And then also just having time to be with my husband where we're not lifting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
You
and there's always a lot to do with all the meal prep and everything, getting ready for a contest. It's not just the time that you're in the gym. And then also it makes you, when you're in the last bits of it, you're just so drained that you don't have much energy for much else. So it can be pretty taxing on your home life.
I bet. I
But
understand
I
that.
am very grateful for now having the time, where I can go out for my morning bike ride and not feel guilty that I'm not making someone breakfast or something like that, right? And
Yeah,
go to the gym with my husband and everything's good. So
that's
so
terrific.
happy for that.
And you said your husband, is he a bodybuilder as well?
He was competing in powerlifting for a while. Right now he just comes and trains and does various things in the gym. So he's that doesn't have a specific goal right this minute, but he'll probably get back to powerlifting goals soon.
That's terrific. That's very cool.
Yeah.
And I was curious, you guys have some motorcycles very prominently featured in your Instagram. I was
Yeah.
curious how y'all got involved with involved with motorbikes like that.
Well, back I think around 2008, our son had a friend in when he was in high school, and that friend and the dad did motocross riding. So that dad invited my husband Doug to go motocrossing with him, and it was so much fun that Doug came home and said, "Andrea, you've got to try this." So that kind of started the ball rolling. We got me a motorcycle, and I learned how to motocross. I mean, I never did the huge jumps or anything, but I just had a great time, riding around in the dirt.
Yeah.
And then life got super busy, and so we kind of set the motorcycles aside. Then in 2019, Doug was thinking he wanted to get back into riding motorcycles, and so he was at a motorcycle shop looking at one for him, and we had me sit on it. It's like, that didn't feel right, and so he looked over at another one and said, go sit on that bike. And I was like, okay. So I sat on it and I was like, oh, don't fall in love. Don't fall in love. You can't have this bike. We don't have enough money. But really, I was totally in love with this bike. And Doug said that when he saw me on that bike, he's like, oh my God, that's your bike. So he knew he had to buy it for me. So he sneakily arranged it so that he would buy the bike and have it delivered to our house. So one day, Doug and I are driving home from errands, and I see the guy from the motorcycle shop unloading that bike in our driveway. And I'm like, oh, you got this bike with us? He's like, nope, this is all yours.
That's terrific.
So, yeah. So that was a very happy day.
That's so cool.
After that point, Doug paid for some training for both of us to have a professional motorcycle coach train us how to ride at the track in a safe way. So it's, a lot of details about, braking and all sorts of things, accelerating and doing things smoothly so you're not, falling over and crashing all the time. So
yeah,
it's really great. So now, we ended up getting more motorcycles after that. He bought me an HP4 race after he had bought one for himself because he loved it so much. He's like, you're going to love this too. And so we keep that one in our garage at Indy Motorsports Ranch, because those are track only bikes. You cannot ride them on the street at all.
Oh,
but
sure.
They're so fun to ride. It makes you smile.
Yeah, those racing bikes are really
nothing
cool.
quite like the feeling of going, 140 miles per hour down the straightaway and then diving into the turn at the end of it. It's just, and then accelerating through the corners. It just feels good.
I bet. Yeah.
And it makes me glad I'm a bodybuilder, because you need a bit of strength for that, with the supporting your body weight and being able to push back hard enough that when you're braking hard, you're not going to fly forward. Yeah. All these little details.
That's so cool. That's great. No, I think that's, the pictures of you guys and the motorbikes looks really cool. And I bet it's thrilling to go 140 like that too.
Well, yeah, and that's actually slow compared to people who ride at the track all the time. But for me, it's fast.
Yeah, that's really fast. That's great. Do you think you would do, well, actually, we're running a little low on time, but just real quick, would you consider doing racing, do you think? Or
well, the thing is, with racing motorcycles, it's a much higher risk because everybody's in the mode that I want to win no matter what, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I just want to go have fun and I want to live to ride another day.
Yeah.
And my bikes are too pretty to crash anyway. So
yeah, I understand. You don't want to get injured too and mess up.
Right. Yeah. So I kind of, I do a little bit of a challenge my skills just so I can improve a bit, but I don't push beyond that limit because I don't want to risk getting hurt or hurting my bikes.
Sure, I totally understand that. Well, since we only got like about a minute left, I was wondering if you would do a quick flex for me.
Of course. Yeah. Can you, let's see, get my bicep in there? Can you see that at all? There we go.
Yeah, you look great. Thank you.
Great.
And thank you so much for this interview too. I'll get this posted soon, and I'll include the motorcycle pictures and
I'll share my other picture with you.
Yeah, share the art picture. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. And I'll get this posted relatively soon, probably this evening. So keep an eye out. But thanks again, Andrea. It's really nice meeting you.
Yeah, good talking with you too. Take care.
Hope to see you at another show soon.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.